We're guessing you've done plenty of thinking about how to train your own imaginary dragon. If you're a fan of the first two How to Train Your Dragon movies, we're sure you can't wait for the third installment in the series. But sometimes, finding out some amazing fan theories is almost as good as seeing the movie itself. Before we begin, subscribe to CBR and ring that bell to join our notification squad so you never miss a video. Without further ado, here are some crazy How to Train Your Dragon 3 The Hidden World theories.
Dragons.
Extinction. Let's start off by talking about a theory that is both depressing and likely to be accurate. We know this is the third movie in the How to Train Your Dragon franchise, but it is the end of the trilogy. When movie studios happen upon a popular franchise, they like to hang on to it and put out as many movies as possible. However, according to director Dean DeBlois, this won't be the case here. He co-directed the original How to Train Your Dragon and solely directed the following two installments. DeBlois has confirmed The Hidden World will be the final installment of the franchise, and that it will have a definitive ending. Now, we have always assumed that these movies take place in the past. With that assumption in mind, you've probably noticed there aren't any dragons flying around anymore. So what happened to them? One sad but probable theory is that something happened to cause all dragons to go extinct. According to DeBlois, he liked the idea of fantasy creatures like dragons living in a world which is essentially our own. Will The Hidden World show us what caused the extinction of all dragons? It doesn't seem like an improbable theory, and we'll be packing some extra tissues just in case it turns out to be true. Dependence. Let's take a moment to remember when we first met a young Hiccup in How to Train Your Dragon. He was hoping to follow in the footsteps of his Viking ancestors by capturing and slaying a dragon. However, if he had succeeded, this would have been a much sadder and shorter franchise. We know that eventually Hiccup and Toothless become great buddies, but for a long period of time, they were adversaries. We even saw Hiccup injure Toothless's tail at one point. Since Hiccup is a human being and Toothless is a dragon, it's safe to say their minds work in very different ways. Some people believe Toothless wanted revenge on Hiccup for the way he treated him, and found an insidious way to level the playing field. At the end of the first movie, we saw Hiccup lose his foot during a battle, except we didn't exactly see it, because then the film would have required a much higher rating. Some fans believe that Toothless bit off Hiccup's foot in the chaos of the moment. This would have gotten him revenge, and perhaps made them even in his mind, but it had another benefit as well. Clearly, being on the good side of a Viking is important to surviving as a dragon, and Toothless just ensured that Hiccup will be much more dependent upon him. Some believe the third film will explore the symbiotic relationship created by Toothless and show some interesting power dynamics between the two friends. Renaissance. One compelling fan theory encompasses the entire world of How to Train Your Dragon. According to this idea, the movie is supposed to be an allegory for the European Renaissance. Even though, historically, Vikings were from a different time period, some believe they're meant to represent people from a different era. They live in very simple ways. They have a feudalistic system of government, and they're constantly finding new ways to interact with the world around them. The Vikings representing humans from a different time doesn't sound very far-fetched, but what do the dragons represent in this scenario? Some believe they represent magic or the unknown. During the Renaissance, people both believed in and feared what they didn't understand. Thus, in the first movie, we saw the Vikings desperate to hunt dragons, but while the Vikings view the dragons as magic, what they actually might be is science. After all, the movies take place in a pretty mundane universe with the exception of dragons. We see Hiccup breaking the mold multiple times by researching Toothless, making observations and acting as a researcher. Could the third movie reveal Vikings finally learning the truth about dragons? This would remove the magic and mystery, and explain why dragons eventually disappeared. It could very well represent humans questioning the unknown and gradually accumulating rational answers for fantastic questions.
All right, bud, we gotta get out of here. Now.
Call of the Wild. Director Dean DeBlois had some interesting literary comparisons when it came to talking about How to Train Your Dragon 3 The Hidden World. He mentioned the movie will have a similar theme to the well-known Jack London novel The Call of the Wild. For those of you who need a refresher, the story follows a large, powerful dog named Buck. At first, he experiences abuse at the hands of the humans in his life, but eventually, he's befriended by a human and the two form a strong bond. Later in the book, Buck is approached by a pack of wolves who invite him to join them in the wild. At first, Buck declines out of loyalty to his human, but after he loses his human, he answers the call of the wild and heads into the woods with the wolves. We're guessing you can probably see right away how this could link up with the How to Train Your Dragon series. We know that when Hiccup met Toothless, he understandably didn't trust humans, but over time, the members of two different species became close friends. With the appearance of a new female Light Fury dragon in the third movie, it's easy to see Toothless may be hearing the call of the wild himself. If the movie follows the novel, it's likely we'll see Hiccup and Toothless finally separated due to the powerful call of the wild.
He took all the dragons?
Not all of them.
Intolerance. In How to Train Your Dragon 3, we'll be getting a brand new villain, and to say he and Hiccup have their differences is an understatement. According to Dean DeBlois, Grimmel believes dragons should be completely eliminated in the best-case scenario, although he's willing to compromise and enslave them. Many fans believe Grimmel represents not just a hatred of dragons, but the idea of intolerance himself. Instead of trying to learn more about dragons and appreciate them the way that Hiccup did, he simply wants to get rid of them. Because of his intolerance of other species, he views himself as superior and believes this gives him certain rights. In fact, Grimmel's claim to fame has been eliminating the Night Fury dragons, with one notable exception, of course. Not only does this intolerant outlook put Grimmel at odds with dragons, but Hiccup as well. We're guessing Grimmel isn't going to be keen on the idea of humans and dragons peacefully coexisting. If dragons end up going extinct at the end of the movie, does this mean intolerance wins? We're guessing that won't be the takeaway here, so we'll have to wait and see how Hiccup and Toothless stand up to the face of intolerance. Bad design. There are so many great things we can say about the How to Train Your Dragon franchise, but one fact about the latest movie has caused some upset. We all know that in the new movie, we'll be encountering a female Light Fury dragon, and based on his awkward mating dance, we're guessing she's being set up as a potential girlfriend for Toothless. But in this universe, we've seen tons of different dragons. Dean DeBlois has claimed they're all modeled after different animals. Toothless is based on a panther, while Cloudjumper is based on an owl. But when it comes to the new female dragon, she looks exactly like a less interesting version of Toothless. This has rubbed many fans the wrong way, and believe it goes far beyond being lazy or uncreative. In many animated cartoons involving animals, the female creatures are much more humanoid, while the male creatures are allowed to look more like animals. Could Light Fury's design be indicative of a major problem when it comes to portraying females in animation? This isn't the first time studios have been accused of this. Just think about how similar Elsa, Anna, and Rapunzel all look. If you switched their hairstyles, they'd be interchangeable with one another, but the same definitely can't be said for male characters created by the same animators. Stoic. We all know that tragically, Hiccup was forced to mourn the death of his father Stoic during How to Train Your Dragon 2. Not only did he pass away, but the way in which it happened was quite dramatic. He met his end trying to save his son's life from a possessed Toothless. Even though Toothless wasn't in his right mind at the time, we can't imagine this was easy to get over for Hiccup. The voice of Stoic was provided by actor Gerard Butler, and we know he had a role in the third movie as well. Some people theorize that Stoic may be coming back from the dead, but we don't think this is likely. It seems more likely that he could return in a dream state, perhaps to impart some advice to his son Hiccup. We saw Hiccup cast Toothless away in the moments following Stoic's death, so it's understandable that things may be strained between the two friends. And with the insidious Grimmel showing up with his anti-dragon leanings, we're guessing Hiccup could use some kind words from his father. The theory of Stoic coming back in a dream state or a flashback makes much more sense than him coming back from the dead. Although Gerard Butler did add that he believes this movie will be the best one in the series.
Woo! Well, that really came out of nowhere.
Beard. Sure, we loved the trailer for How to Train Your Dragon 3: The Hidden World. We loved looking at the lush landscapes, getting a glimpse of the Light Fury dragon, and of course, seeing Hiccup with a beard. This caused many people to believe there had been a large time skip between the second and third movies. After all, there was nearly a 5-year gap between the first and second movies, so this didn't seem unreasonable. However, it's been confirmed that there's only a single year difference between the second and third films. While it's certainly possible to grow a beard in that time, we're guessing what we really saw in the trailer was an older Hiccup. Dean DeBlois has stated that time will be less than linear in this movie, which further adds credibility to the theory. We're expecting to see Hiccup growing more into his role as chief, and the beard certainly makes us think of his late father Stoic. So while we definitely love the dramatic change in his look, we don't expect to see Hiccup sporting a beard through the whole movie. But we are very much looking forward to seeing a peek of Hiccup's future. We just want to know how far into the future we're going to get to see.
Distract the Alpha. Try to keep his focus off of Toothless.
Independence. Whether or not you believe Toothless was involved in Hiccup's injury, there's no denying these two are dependent on one another. The only reason Toothless can fly is because of Hiccup, but now the situation is complicated. Especially considering Toothless meets a Light Fury, it's not hard to guess that Hiccup and Toothless are growing apart. But would Toothless be willing to give up the power of flight to pursue the Light Fury? While this may be the case, we're betting that Hiccup wouldn't let this happen. Instead, it seems much more likely that Hiccup will do his best to enable unstable the relationship between Toothless and the Light Fury, and based on the ridiculous mating dance we saw Toothless performing, he needs all the help he can get. Even though Hiccup is brave and clever, at the end of the day, he's still a human being. Toothless is going to have to focus on dragons if he hopes to woo a lady dragon, and this means he's going to have to learn to fly. It seems as if Hiccup and Toothless are going to be growing apart, and an important part of that is Toothless gaining his independence. Hiccup may be tasked with creating a device which will allow his friend Toothless to grow further away from him.
It's a hidden dragon world.
The Hidden World. Since the movie contains the phrase, the hidden world, in the title, it's a fair assumption we're going to see some sort of, well, hidden world. In the movies, we see Hiccup and his fellow Vikings realize they don't need to hunt dragons. That's impressive enough, but they take it to the next level by befriending them and living in harmony together. While this is amazing, it doesn't mean coexistence would be possible on a larger scale. Getting the entire human population to embrace dragons is a big ask, and not something that'll likely be accomplished in this film. Some fans believe that, rather than go extinct, the dragons will go into hiding. It would explain why there aren't any dragons around today, and be a less macabre and more family-friendly ending than them going extinct. In a perfect world, we could all be like Hiccup and learn to peacefully coexist. But even if he defeats Grimmel, there will always be more intolerant people who share his outlook. After the previous two movies, could it finally be time for our heroes to stop fighting? Perhaps the hidden world is less a new place to explore and more of a refuge from what's going on in the world. Maybe this time, Hiccup and Toothless will need to hide in order to stay safe. Or maybe just one of them will.
You never cease to amaze me, bud. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Do you think any of our How to Train Your Dragon 3 theories could be true? Do you have any theories of your own? Let us know in the comment section below, and please don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.